Hi everyone, welcome to I Dream of Dance Dance Talk Season 1. In a series of episodes, I Dream of Dance is highlighting women leaders in health, art, education, and innovation. And I'm joined by a very special guest, Karina Popovich, and I'm so excited for you all to meet her. Karina is a first-generation Ukrainian-American student at Cornell University. She's the founder of Inertia, which bridges STEM and creativity to further diversity. Through a combination of art and activism, Karina organizes aesthetic pop-ups and experiences that inspire awareness for tech. But that's not all. During the pandemic, Karina founded Makers for COVID-19, a coalition of 3D printer owners from around the world who 3D printed and donated 82,000 units of PPE to medical workers in the United States. Karina continues to share her love for 3D printing as an If Then ambassador through the American Association for the Advancement of Science. And that's just scratching the surface with Karina. So thank you so much, Karina, for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Amanda. I'm very excited to share more of my story and answer your wonderful and very exciting questions.
Yes, I'm so excited too. So as you know, my name is Amanda. I live in Maryland and my favorite style of dance is hip hop, no question. So I was wondering if you could tell us a story about what brought you to your specific career path or your area of interest, and how has your educational, familial, or cultural background impacted you as a person or a woman in STEM?
Yeah, I think that's a lot of questions to unpack, and there's going to be a long story for it. But basically, my kind of love for tech just, I guess, always was in me because I had a curiosity for knowledge and for learning. I remember being super little and my dad being an electrician. And that was like his first job coming to the US. He just kind of worked in the trades, and that's where he had his start. And he had, this set of pliers and screwdrivers and these tiny little light bulbs, and I was just fascinated by them. So I remember for my first ever science fair project, what I did was create a circuit in which I lit up a light bulb using a set of batteries. And to me, it was just like the coolest thing. Like I was able to, actually make something light up. I felt like I was, making magic happen. And since then, I just really had a love for science, for engineering, for learning, for making things. And then from there, I ended up going into middle school where I did more robotics. And then from there, high school where I did even more engineering. And then I ended up majoring in mechanical engineering in my high school. I ended up doing Girls Who Code. So a bunch of different engineering things that allowed me to explore just like the breadth of, the engineering world. And then, towards the end of high school, when I was a senior, I had a realization that I, really loved making things, but I also had this like super creative fashion girl, like, New York Fashion Week loving person that I just kind of like disregarded because I was so focused on engineering. And I realized that I wanted to give her more of a shot. And I also wanted to explore the whole idea of product management. And I think, growing up in a Ukrainian-American first generation household, a lot of what was infused in me was entrepreneurship. So to me, like, even as I was going through high school, what I was constantly thinking about is how can I be the next, Mark Zuckerberg or Jeff Bezos. I always wanted to kind of be the first woman to be a household name like that. And so I, kept looking for the right avenue to go there. And I realized that engineering was a path and something that I needed to do to kind of to know and to learn to get there. And around my senior year of high school, I realized that what I also needed was a strong background in business. I had to start more ventures. I had, still some, confidence issues and some learning to kind of get through in order to, achieve the feats of like, these other, greats that came before me. So I decided that I would major in business in college. So I applied to the Dyson School of Business at Cornell, ended up getting in. And then here I, now am combining, what I'm learning in business school to what I already learned in high school through engineering, to basically create a bunch of, cool different solutions to various problems. And so, one thing that I did early on in the pandemic, that was my freshman year of college, was 3D print PPE. So I, remember hearing about the pandemic, and I remember having a 3D printer. And so my first kind of, thing to do was, how can I help and how do I 3D print something? And so I started 3D printing PPE, got other people on board. And from there, that just snowballed into a huge organization that ended up donating 82,000 units of PPE across the US, and even some internationally. And so after doing that, I realized that, okay, like, great, this is me practicing being, a technical entrepreneur. Let me not be a one-hit wonder. Let me do this again. And so that's why now what I'm working on is Inertia. And Inertia is, just a kind of taps into that fashion other side, the creative side of Karina that I didn't get to tap into. And it's really great because I feel like I'm, this startup is a really great kind of show of every personality of mine. It's the tech, it's the business, it's also the creative side. And so basically what we do is we create experiences with STEM that are unique and unlike any other, and that are meant to inspire curiosity and confidence amongst people. So a lot of what we do is actually create pop-ups in places where people least expect them. We create pop-ups that, have experiences unlike any others. So, I'm sure most of the audience have been to a science fair, and they, put some vinegar into a volcano and it erupted, right? Or you did something with strawberries and DNA and soap, or you did some other sort of science fair-esque activity. What we're doing with these pop-ups is we are showing people how to 3D model. We have purple 3D printers on set, and we are 3D printing people's, rocket ships that they design. So these are activities that, are meant to show people the other side of tech, the other side of STEM, that, you don't really see at these science fairs, the side that is applicable, directly to their real life. Because someone can literally go home, 3D model a mug and then print it. And that's something that they have and can use every day. And so we want to kind of encourage and inspire that sort of, passion and, interest in exploring STEM, not necessarily for the sake of just, majoring in STEM, but, just encouraging people to explore STEM concepts as a whole. Because one thing that I realized in my journey is that STEM is applicable to any and every industry. So, whether you're in fashion, whether you are a writer, whatever it is you are, having a background in STEM is insanely valuable. And that's kind of the narrative that we're trying to push forward through all of our experiences. And part of the way that we do that is by bringing these pop-ups to places where people least expect them. So, you'll see us at a mall, you will see us at a market. Recently, we were in Chelsea Market where we were 3D printing rocket ships for people on our purple 3D printers. And there's a lot more to it, but really we're just trying to create a new experience with STEM. And it's something that I've just been really obsessed with and have been having a lot of fun with.
That is an amazing response. I love that you really talked about the interdisciplinary of STEM and business and creativity. And I think that's something that we're also trying to go for with I Dream of Dance, sort of connecting education with confidence, with dance. And I think having these really cool connections is novel, it's unique, and it's really exciting. So I love that you're trying to do that. And I also love that you're trying to sort of change the culture and what people think of when they think of STEM or engineering. I know even before I found Inertia, I sort of, when I think of engineering, first of all, I didn't even really know what is engineering. I don't even know. And I thought of gray and just putting things random metals together. I didn't really.
If you think of engineering, most people think of robots, red and black, and these dark bleakish colors. no one really thinks pink, purple, neon colors, like, and like, that's exactly the point that we're trying to convey here, is like, STEM is so cool and is so applicable to everything. And we do that through kind of having these super colorful pop-ups. So I'm glad you're proving the point of Inertia.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that. Even the colors can have a big difference what you associate it with. So I love that. And I also love how you touched on like your inspiration and why you really got interested into STEM was your desire for knowledge, and not even like I like having other perspectives about why you wanted to go into STEM that other people have, like, oh, you can make a lot of money, or different things that a lot of people, or like my parents want me to do it, which is especially
Yeah.
prevalent in my school. I think
Yeah.
that you had that desire for knowledge and you were genuinely interested is something really awesome too.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So my next question is, you touched on this a little bit, but like why 3D printing specifically? And you talked a little
Yeah.
bit about how Makers for COVID-19 started, but just a little bit more about that.
No, absolutely. So why 3D printing? I think I've always had an insane love for 3D printers. And the reason why I think is because they are such a symbol for engineering and making. And I think they're the one thing that can symbolize like the most aspects of me as and my identity. Basically, with a 3D printer, you can, you can make something on a laptop, and then once you have it 3D modeled, you can have it printed. So you can basically create something out of nothing, and you can create anything out of nothing. And I think that is so symbolic of engineering, of entrepreneurship, that it's just like really core to who I am and what I value. I love being able to make things. I love being able to create something new. And that's essentially what, I get to do every day through these fun experiences. And I think as far as Makers for COVID-19 goes, a lot of the story behind there was just, I had a love for 3D printers since my first year of high school. All of the freshmen in my high school had to take a class in 3D modeling. So I did too. Most people hated it, but I was the odd one out. I loved it. It's my favorite thing. Ended up doing more 3D modeling at NYU's Makerspace, and more 3D printing there, and continued to love it. And then finally, my freshman year of college, I got into a good school. I figured, let me reward myself. Let me buy myself a 3D printer. And then literally a few months later, the pandemic hit. And I remember sitting in a business classroom and my professor telling me all about how and this was, mind you, like early on in the pandemic, to the point where we still had classes and people were freaking out about the pandemic. And like a few days later, that's when like everyone decided to shut down. So literally I was in this classroom and my professor was telling me all about how him and his neighbor were producing hand sanitizer because they knew of the shortages. And I thought in my head, wow, this person like saw a problem and did not wait to act, and acted. And he just capitalized on the momentum. And I realized, this is something that I should do. And unfortunately, like the fortunate things of unfortunate events like a pandemic is that there are tons of opportunities. And I knew that, I would go back home. Once I did go back home, that there would be plenty of opportunities for me to kind of create something and make a difference. And so I kind of saw the opportunity with 3D printing PPE, or personal protective equipment. And so I jumped at it. I started 3D printing face shields. I, read up on everything on how to make them. I learned about it. I donated my first batch and realized what other people with 3D printers needed to be able to do the same. And I realized that what they needed was, knowing how to do this and having someone to kind of guide them to do this. Printing PPE, if you've never done it before, is a very scary thing. You don't want to make something that could hurt someone. You don't know if people are actually going to take it, because it's very surreal. Like to live in a world where, surgeons and doctors need something that I can make in my basement is like kind of not really the world that you would expect. So most people aren't ready for that. Most people weren't ready for that. So what I ended up doing was, kind of once I had this figured out, I actually got a group of people together, and I said, you know what, hey, I'm going to walk you through how to do this. I'm going to kind of hold everyone's hand. And in doing that, figured out that that's exactly what they needed, and got 300 plus people on board. I think at one point we had 350 people, and then got them on board, got them printing PPE, got them started. And then together we were able to produce 82,000 units of PPE. And that includes face shields, that includes ear savers, which are basically these things that you would that nurses could put on the back of their masks so that they wouldn't have. So can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Sorry. It just told me that my AirPods connected. But basically, I'll backtrack so that you can kind of edit that the way you need to. But we were able to produce 82,000 units of PPE, which included face shields, ear savers that basically would attach on the back of masks for nurses, and would help them from having like bloody ears. Because, when you wear a mask, layers of masks on your face for like a whole day, you become like swollen, and you get I forget the word for this, but you basically just have an intense amount of pain. And so we produced all of those, and ended up making a significant impact. And in the process, I ended up learning a lot about what it takes to run, a huge organization, and what it takes to be able to impact so many people.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I really love how you touched on with a pandemic or a big change, there are new opportunities. People have different wants, people have different needs. Like people need need this PPE, they need these ear shields, they need this equipment. People have new wants, like they want to help these healthcare workers, a bunch of different things. I'm really like being like, there's a pandemic, let me act, instead of just being like, oh, I have some time at home, like let's watch some TV,
Yeah.
or something like that. Like balance is important too, but the fact that you're able
Yeah.
to just go and get started is really awesome.
Yeah, I think honestly, we don't have there's not a lot of opportunities nowadays. And so, when there are changes in the world, I think kind of capitalizing on that is a good way of looking at things. So, yes, like for example, I'm Ukrainian. And my parents often ask me, like, why aren't you doing anything to help Ukraine? That is like one example of a great, unfortunate occurrence, but a really great opportunity for people to make a difference, for people to, try and use tech to solve a big problem, or kind of, figure out or develop new solutions. And so I think that is kind of just something that I will throw out to your audience, to hopefully, stand up and make a difference. I definitely have not been able to do as much as I want to do. But again, I think, this is like a great opportunity for anyone to really step up, whether they're Ukrainian or not, and, help out the world.
Absolutely, definitely. With all of these current events and so many things going on, I also agree that it's important that we make a change and we work towards a more positive future. Definitely. So you
Yeah.
said that there were like over 300 people. I'm wondering like how you like got all these people together. Like, was it word of mouth? Did you do like social media marketing? And who were these people? Were they all college students or yeah?
Yeah. So we actually, the way that we did word of mouth was actually through Reddit, or the way we did marketing was through Reddit. Basically, that's where most of the 3D printing community was. So we kind of just got onto these Reddit groups, and kept sending messages in these groups, letting people know that, hey, we are looking for 3D printer owners who want to, make a difference, who don't know how, and we'll happily teach them. And so doing that actually got us the huge group of people. And then, people started bringing their friends. And because we had such a personalized system where, I made sure to answer people's questions, I made sure to be there at all times. Or, I eventually had a team that would answer other people's questions. We're kind of really there to help everyone through this step and through this process and to guide them. And so I think that is what really helped get, the word of mouth out there. I think there was a second part to your question. What do you mind reminding me again what it was?
It was who were the people that made up like this whole network of makers? Were they college students or people of all
Yeah.
ages?
Yeah. So we actually had people of all ages. It was surprising how many different people we had. But literally we had people who were engineers at, Amazon. We had people who were, teachers. We had people who were college students. We had people who were high school students. So we really had like the broadest spectrum of anyone you could think of. And I think being remote actually made this all possible. In what world, I mean, I could never picture a world in which, me at the time, I was 19, could lead a group of like, 50 to 40 to whatever year olds in making this happen. And most of them were men too. Like there were like a select few women who were like 3D printing PPE. So it was definitely like, out of this world, not something that you would think of ever happening, at least in my time and your time.
Absolutely. Yeah. Being a 19-year-old, leading people that are older than you and then still like respecting you and
Yeah.
going along with this, that's definitely seems like a challenge. And the fact that you're able to be that mature,
Yeah.
that organized, is amazing.
Yeah. And honestly, I think it's a good like point to show that like the times are changing. I know that, it's still difficult to be a woman in STEM, and it's still difficult to be a woman in these male dominated fields like, business and engineering, but it feels like we're slowly changing. It feels like we're slowly getting better. Women are more respected, women are more heard out. And things are getting better, which, to me feels very reassuring that we're finally moving in that direction.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So we're now going to transition back to Inertia, and I want to know what are some of your favorite Inertia projects, past or future, or any other things you're really excited about.
Yeah. So we recently did our Chelsea Market pop-up. And I shared a little bit about that, but we basically let people 3D print their own rocket ships. We had a super fun and colorful setup. It was super Instagrammable. And that was the whole point. We wanted really anyone to relate to this pop-up. And more importantly, we wanted people with no STEM background to relate to this pop-up. And given like the whole experience and the way that it looked, I think we did a great job at that. We had so many people asking us questions about, what this is, what 3D printers are. And I think that was just super awesome to be able to explain to people more about that. As far as projects that we're actually having come up, well, this is a project that I'm very excited for. I don't know when it'll happen. But I have this idea to create this whimsical Alice in Wonderland wall that's going to have checkerboard. It's going to be a whimsical checkerboard pattern with cubbies that actually pull out. And in each cubby, there's going to be a 3D printed bonbon. So it's fully edible. And on this bonbon, it's going to say, "Eat me. I'm going to turn you into an engineer who can build the Eiffel Tower." Um, and the whole idea here with this pop-up and experience is we're first off taking a twist, a spin on Alice in Wonderland to be Alice, the girl who engineered her own Wonderland. And on top of that, we're trying to really kind of let people visualize themselves in engineering roles. So, I want someone to, pick up this bonbon and eat it and say, "Oh my gosh, I could actually be an engineer." What it takes to be an engineer who builds an Eiffel Tower is knowing how to 3D model, knowing how to 3D print, going to architecture school. And those are things that I can do. So really kind of showing someone that like this is not out of this world. This is not far-fetched. You can do this, and this is what it's going to take to do this in some like super simple digestible steps. So that's one pop-up that I'm dying to do. But we haven't really found the ideal partner yet to do it with. So we are on the browse and looking out for things. That's one. Another pop-up that we're thinking about doing is an NFT pop-up. So showing kind of the background behind how NFTs work, and doing it through a fun, maybe VR or augmented reality experience. So that's something that I've been thinking a lot about too. But hopefully that gives you a little bit of a sneak peek into the kind of projects that we love working on.
Those are really exciting. I think particularly like the NFTs and with the hot STEM girl summer, like you guys are really going with like the trendy things that everyone's talking about. And that makes it really more exciting and people are a lot more interested. So that's really cool how you're able to come up with all of these things.
Yeah, thank you. We are all about, being trendy and being relatable. We like it. That's one of our strategies of kind of like making STEM more relatable, is going after like these trends. So Hot STEM Girl Summer was one that we did last summer. Doing this Alice the Engineer in Wonderland wall, kind of basing it off of like pop culture things like, this movie, and doing more and more kind of fun things like this. Now, even with NFTs, like that is something that everyone is just raving about. So kind of bringing this, education about what NFTs actually are to the rest of the world, is exactly what we aim to do.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's cool that it's really natural for all of you because you guys are like really into all the trends and know all of it. I know some like big corporations, they have to hire more people to like connect and like research like new things because they don't really know, if that makes any sense. So the
Yeah.
fact that you guys are also like involved and know all the trends as well is really cool.
It really helps being a Gen Z founded startup. I mean, I think like a lot of these things most companies could not come up with because they just don't have like a pulse on what's popular. And I think this is like, a great thing for all Gen Z to leverage. Like if like we know what we want. I like as a Gen Zer, I know that like, Gen Z loves like Instagrammable, colorful, fun experiences. And that's exactly why, the idea of Inertia came about. Like, how do we attract Gen Z? How do we attract, like the people that are, moving the needle in pop culture right now? And the way to do that is through these experiences that do appeal to them.
Absolutely. You said that perfectly, exactly what I was trying to say. So thank you. So my next question is, being a full-time college student and CEO of two nonprofits, you still joined a sorority, go to parties, embrace fashion, and a lot more. So my question is, how do you find balance and why is balance so important to you?
Yeah. You forgot to mention that I also like have just a bunch of other side projects and a bunch of other things going on. But like the point is like there's a lot to juggle. And you're totally right. It's like insane. But I think that's honestly what keeps me going. I love having a lot of things to do and I love, doing a bunch of things. I think that at the end of the day, like it just really comes down to the pace that you work at. Um, I definitely have to make sacrifices, and I'm aware of them. So, for example, with school, like I know that if I want to work on Inertia, the sacrifice that I need to be making is, my grades. Um, so I know that like I cannot be, going to every set of office hours. I can't be doing X, Y, Z, like, going above and beyond. I can only be, performing at this level because I want to make time for these other things. Um, and it's something that I'm okay with because I can see the value that Inertia is bringing to my future. If Inertia doesn't work out, at the end of the day, like what I learned is how to be a project manager. And having, met other product managers who are like 5 years into their career, I can firmly say that I am, very within their level. and I still have not graduated college. So I think, there's like, I'm making trade-offs, but at the end of the day, like these trade-offs are helpful to my long-term career. And even with Inertia, for example, like the sacrifice I'm making there in order to be able to manage a social life and school is I'm taking it at a slow pace. I could be giving it 110%. I could be working with 4 clients at a time instead of working with just one. I could be doing so many more things, but I'm not, because I want to be able to manage to do all these other things. And so part of that is working on a slower timeline. So kind of spreading things out and giving myself more room. And I think that's kind of how I've been able to manage things with Inertia and school and all the other things that are going on, because there's always so many. I'm finally taking my road test. So you can imagine how like of all the things that need
Wow.
to get done, like road test finally made it onto the list.
Wow, yeah, I can't believe that. That's
Um,
awesome though.
yeah, I'm very excited to finally be able to drive, hopefully, if I pass.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's always a lot going on. And at the end of the day, like what I hope everyone can take away is that whatever it is you want your life to look like, you can definitely make it happen. It might be slower, there might be some sacrifices, but as long as you're willing to compromise, you can definitely do it.
Yeah, with that's really interesting. Um, with all these other projects, I mean, they've taken you really far. Like you were published in Forbes. You have a like life-size 3D model statue in the Smithsonian, right? With If Then.
Yep.
I actually went to the exhibit last weekend and I saw it. So
Yeah,
that's
I
really
saw your
cool.
post about it. How did you like all the statues?
Oh my gosh, it was literally the most amazing experience, and the fact that all of the all of the women were there standing next to the statues, and I got to
Oh yeah.
talk to all of them. Like it was Dr. Grady. I don't know if you know her, but she
Oh
I
yeah.
interviewed her for another one of these
He's
I
so
Dream of Dance
cool.
episodes. Yeah, and she was there, and it was just awesome. It was amazing.
Yeah, the era was really filled with inspiration. Like genuinely, I had my friends there with me, and none of my friends are scientists, except one. She's an engineer, and they all agreed that like this was something that like they were just super inspired and felt like energized by.
Absolutely. To have all of them there in one place with these amazing statues
Yeah.
was just like a crazy experience. I loved it.
Yay. Awesome.
So, my next question is, um, I'm deciding which one I want to ask. Sorry.
Go for it.
I can have like 1 minute and then just cut this part out because I
Yeah.
know
No.
we have like
You're
seven
so good.
minutes. I want to ask the best one. Um, okay, let's just go to the last question. So, okay, we're back. So, I Dream of Dance is an arts organization that promotes health and education in youth, which we believe totally goes along with your mission, with all of your initiatives. So, we wanted to know, why do you think promoting health, education, or appreciation for the arts in youth is important?
Yeah, I mean, I think this ties perfectly to my story. I think, every person has, you know, every person has a creative side to them, in addition to, the technical business or science side that they have. Everyone is more than just an engineer. Everyone is more than just a business person. People are so multifaceted, and I think because of that, it's so important to acknowledge that, and to encourage engineers or people who are looking to be engineers to you know relate back to the arts, and to feel like they aren't just choosing engineering or science, but that they can have it all. I think the biggest struggle that I had in high school was not realizing that I could have a career in life where I could have it all. I thought if I were to be an engineer, my life would be at either Google, Amazon, or Apple. I never really pictured a life where I could be doing engineering, in the sense of like engineering pop-ups, or, you know, one career path that I'm exploring right now is 3D modeling clothing for NFTs. So, you know, point is like you can be there, like you can be whatever, like you can find a career that represents your whole identity. If that means engineering and dance, you can definitely find a career there. If that means engineering and fashion, you can find a career there. And because of that, I think it's very important that more students and more people see the intersection between art and STEM and some of these more technical careers, because then they'll be able to actually see that there is a career path that is all encompassing to them, and they don't have to be turned away from STEM. Because I think that's the biggest issue that's kind of preventing so many girls and so many other underrepresented youth from going into STEM. They see that it only caters to one side of them. They don't see it as something that can cater to every one of their, you know, identities. I certainly didn't see that for myself, which is why I ended up majoring in business in college. So I think the more we do, the more bridging we do there, the more people will be able to see that, you know, they can find a career that kind of represents all of them. And they could do that in STEM, because STEM is just so far spanning.
Yeah, I absolutely love that, and carving unique paths that really make you feel more fulfilled, that you're a lot more excited about. Because when you think of STEM careers, you think like doctor, or maybe some people just think doctor, but there are so many more opportunities and so many different paths that you're able to carve yourself, that really connect all your different interests, which it seems like you are definitely doing right now. So that's great advice. And thank you so much again. And thank you to all the listeners for listening to the episode. I had such a great time interviewing you. You're so down to earth. Like, even when we first got on the call, we were like talking about our hairstyles. Like, you're like, I feel like you're my friend and I just met you. So thank you so
Amanda,
much.
you are my friend. I'm lucky to call you a friend. You are so awesome and you have so much more ahead of you. So please, I am very, very excited that we got to do this. And please, please always reach out to me. And like, same thing to your audience too. Like, I'm happy to talk to anyone. I love, you know, meeting very cool people doing cool things. So please, like, my door is always open.
Thank you so much. I'm sure everyone really appreciates that. And you can follow Karina on Instagram at karina.popovich. And you can also visit I Dream of Dance's website at idreamofdance.org. So thank you so much again, Karina.